Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stand, Speak, Shine. I am Cherie Burton, your host, and this is a podcast for those who long to feel, express, and be who they truly are. Today, we have Deanna Long. She's a transformational master certified coach and trainer. Known as the Results Catalyst because of her ability to get her clients to achieve their professional and personal goals quickly. She was recognized as one of the top 4% of professional coaches by the International Coach Federation. And so she has been at this a while and has coached thousands of hours over the years. Her book is launching in fall 2023 called Dream It, Design It, Live It, The Ultimate Guide to Manifesting Your Next Level Life. She and I explore in our episode what it means to actually have success at the level of the soul, and that our goals need more soul. We have to commit to creating a next level soul-based life. So with that comes things like a dedicated morning practice. Also, how there's this really beautiful balance between your left brain logical plan side of you and following the flow of inspiration from your heart and the rest of your embodied desires. So this is a really rich discussion. I hope you love it, and I hope you follow further discussion on it on my Instagram, cherie.burton, as well as ask to join our private Facebook group, Stand, Speak, Shine Community. And now let's talk with Deanna Long on how to get results and how to follow the divine breadcrumbs that show up on your path that your soul is actually placing there to take you to where you were destined to be. Diana, it's so good to have you on Stand, Speak, Shine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you. And it's actually Deanna. It looks like a trick name because it's spelled like Diana.
Oh, it's Deanna. And yeah. By the way, my name is Cherie. People, we're just kind of meeting each other for the first time. You and I have been in exchanging each other's, like we've been on each other's radars for a while, months. And we have a mutual friend, Leah.
Yes.
Young, who connected us, which I'm so grateful for. So shout out to her. Hi, Leah.
So am I too. Yes. Likewise.
Anyway, we have weirdly pronounced names, so we'll
I love that. We have that in common.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank you for letting me know that, Cherie. It's beautiful.
Yes. Deanna.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Archetypal goddess too.
Yes.
Lots of rich stuff there. So you're all about empowering people who live into their dreams.
Yes.
Really not limit themselves when it comes to their fullest expression. That's kind of the vibe I got from you and going over, sort of what you're about and your messaging. It's very aligned with Stand, Speak, Shine, because we really promote that empowerment and stepping into who you authentically are. That's kind of the MO of this.
Yeah.
So just so listeners can kind of relate to you and kind of how you got started on this path, is there anything that you want to share with us about your journey that brought you to this point and why you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question and a very open one.
I know, it's a lot.
Yeah. So since I was a little girl, I've just been so interested in people and their stories and their dreams, like what they want to do. And I always had a very creative imagination myself and dreamed about the things I wanted to do and experience when I was a little girl. And over time, I've just been very drawn in school. Like I'm one of those researcher people and I love to learn. And I'm always putting myself on that path and just taking in different kinds of information and research and just all kinds of things. And so long story short, I got a degree in psychology. I just fast forward from that. And, I worked as a therapist. And then I discovered coaching when it was just on, kind of like on the scene, which was about 20 plus years ago. And
oh my gosh, I just have to stop you right there. You and I are living a parallel existence.
Really?
I got a degree in psych. I'm an avid learner. Like I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't want to go into the traditional coaching or the traditional therapy space. And it was 20 years ago when life coaching was just starting to, anyway, so go ahead. I just wanted to insert that.
So I love some of these synchronicities and I love synchronicity, period. So it's cool that it's showing up. Yeah. So I discovered coaching, and it was like a marriage made in heaven for me. And I haven't looked back, and I just keep growing with it and evolving with coaching. And what I really love about it is, I get to work, with individuals, but I also get to work with teams. I've spent many years teaching coaches. So how to coach, as a profession. So I've been very immersed in this field, and it's so empowering. And as you were saying, it really is all, kind of coming back to the true self. What is it that you really want to live and experience in your life? And I think for a lot of us, we're not living that all the time. And there's some reasons for that. And some of it comes from how we were raised. It could be societal expectations that we put upon ourselves, that we kind of picked up from other people, whether it's church or parents or the community that we're in. And so people, and this happens a lot for me with clients that come my way, and stories that I've heard is, it's almost like we're living a different life, and it's not really our life.
Yeah, totally.
It's like cracking
to my midlife crisis. That's what happened. I realized I'm living out a set of, I'd done a lot of things for myself and kind of broke out of some boxes. But even after being a coach for all those years, I had this moment where I was like, I think I've been living largely out of others' expectations. Yeah. And my roles in life were very much tied to pleasing a certain demographic, to pleasing a certain group of people. Mm-hmm.
And it's so amazing because we don't realize, I think it happens to all of us to some degree. I don't think anyone's immune to it really. And it's when you become aware of it. And it's also that it's like that inner calling. It might be a whisper at first, but it just gets louder, and we start noticing, and we're more aware. We might meet someone, we might read something, and there are clues to what it is that maybe is for us. And so that's where the magic is that we're starting to kind of pull some of those puzzle pieces together and taking ownership of what that could look like for ourselves.
Yeah. I love that you used the word magic. Because it always had like a weird supernatural feel to me before.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I don't know what to do with it. But now it's like one of my favorite words, because it's just this whole mystique of like, what's showing up on your path.
Yeah.
So because of, I shared this with you before, but because of my journey with sort of diving into the divine feminine and the goddess history that was removed and all these things, there's this term called the red thread. And it's just basically a divine feminine term for what happens upon your path that you can link to different things. They're sort of under the radar. But for me, they showed up as little divine breadcrumbs. Like somebody would mention something and I'd go down a little rabbit hole and study that. And then something else would emerge from that. Then I'd put it away for a while because I was like, I don't know what to do with that. Is that okay? Kind of put it on a shelf, if you will. And then inevitably something else synchronous, which you used that word before too.
Yeah.
Synchrony. So it is magic because they tied together for me. And when I put the timeline together, I'm like, I can't imagine if I had said no at this juncture in the timeline, or if I hadn't gone down this inroad on this timeline. And it's just, I think that's the magic also of like writing my story and writing a book and getting it down, because I'm seeing these patterns emerge that you're talking about.
Yes.
And I guess my question for you is, if someone that's listening to this is starting to notice maybe some things that keep popping up, if you will, like you said, it bubbles up, right? It's going to come up. If you have a certain soul path, you could call it a destiny or a mission or whatever. But if you have something that your soul is on a certain trajectory to experience in this lifetime, and it's going to keep coming up.
Absolutely.
So at what point, because what I've seen, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, but I've seen people that just keep saying no, 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 no. And then they either have a health crisis, have a huge relationship crisis, something comes undone. It's almost the universe's way of sort of putting them in a timeout or stopping them. Have you seen that pattern emerge as well?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And, not to put any kind of a judgment on that, because I think we've all been through that.
Totally.
And we kind of get knocked on our butt, and then we're like, whoa, we gotta figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But it does create like this timeout where it gives us that space to maybe do the deeper reflection that maybe we've been too busy to attend to. So I think that is very, very common. I also, this might be a little controversial, but I also don't believe that has to be the only way that we wake up.
Totally. Yeah. I was hoping you go there, because I'm like, there are other ways. And I've literally said that out loud. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Don't send any more big,
I'm awake. I'm listening. Yes. Let it be gentle.
Exactly. Let it
Show me in a gentle way.
I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because I think the old paradigm is a suffering paradigm, or
Great.
It's like, I think the new way is much gentler. And I think if you ask, how they say always, be careful what you ask for. That's so true. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like you said, let's just put that little disclaimer in there, show me, but let's make this gentle.
Exactly. Yeah. Because ask and you shall receive. I mean, it really does work that way. Sometimes we forget to ask. What that brings up for me is there's one question. There's so many good questions, obviously, but this one question I think is magical. We'll reuse that word. And it's a question that I offer to people to really magnetize more of what it is that they want to come to them. And the question is, how does it get better than this?
Ooh.
Yeah. And we can use that question even when things are kind of dicey, or we're in a situation where it's like, wow, how could it get better than this? Because what I've learned is when we ask the question, it literally energetically opens up a space that up to that point, if it hasn't been asked, it's there, but we haven't opened it. We haven't connected to what that possibility is. And that is so, so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that brings in kind of the energy of gratitude, which is a magnifier. Gets bigger when you think it in advance. There's some psychology to that with the law of attraction and different things.
Yes.
So I know you also dive into in your work, the Over-Thinking Antidote. First of all, let's talk about overthinking as it relates to being like a dream killer.
Yes, it's the biggest, really.
It is. Yeah. I really feel like we get stuck in our head around judgment of number one, what will others think? Is this okay? Am I being too grand, or am I under dreaming or over dreaming? And so it's like we get caught in our head.
Yeah, 100%.
Which dreams don't live there.
No, they don't. They're kind of in this ethereal vibe, right?
Yeah.
Where the magic is. And, again, I think that this is really a product of conditioning. I think that all of us, once again, have really been schooled and learned to be very rational and linear and organized and plan. And all of those things are really great. And it's like a masculine quality, if we want to use those, kind of like that polarity, masculine, feminine. So it absolutely has its place. It's good. It's positive. However, if we overuse anything, it's not good. And so I think a lot of us are just so geared to think from our head space. I always like to joke, it's like we're living from, just the neck up, but we're not in our totality of our body. What is our heart feeling? What is, our gut telling us? How are we picking up intuition? What are the ways in which we receive our intuition? Because we all do. But if we're living in that headspace and we're just thinking and trying to figure it out and trying to plan it, it's so intense, it's so limited, and it keeps us from being able to receive a new idea, a possibility, a new acquaintance that can help us with this particular endeavor, whatever it might be. So I love to use both. I've been traveling, so I have a little tickle in my throat. So sorry about that. Yeah, it's really incorporating both aspects. Is it good to have a plan? Of course. So if you have a dream, it's like let's telescope it out a little bit. Like, what does it look like? How does it feel? And then kind of break it down a little bit. Like, what are some of the things that I need to do in order to move this dream forward? And then put it down and live your life.
Yeah.
Right? Like actually just get out there and start connecting to that dream. Do some of your actionables, but be open to what else can come in. That's where the magic comes, is the intersection of both.
I've seen myself go into, really like maybe it's a highly intuitive season, let's just say, and I'll get all these ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll write that down later. And then I forgot about it. And it took months for the memory to come back.
Yeah.
And one of the things I teach my clients is to keep a notepad with them at all times, for the exact reason that you're referencing, is to just write it down, to capture it.
I love that.
And if they don't capture it, like, even if it's just like scribbling when you're in the car and you're still driving and you're driving with one hand and you got your pen in the other and you're just hurry and scribble it, and capturing that like lands it, right?
Yes. Yes, I do the same thing. I love it that we have these similarities. I'm all about that too. And one of the activities that I recommend to my clients too is having a morning practice. And it's that journal where we're jotting down, just kind of like free form, like what's there. And I call that clearing the clutter. But what it also does is it captures some of those ideas and just glimmers of, oh, that would be really fun to do that. Or, oh, I should call Susan. But we don't even know why we wrote that down, but there it is.
There it is.
Yeah. And once it's out of here and it's actually in, like you've captured it, you've got that to go back to. Do you maybe need to do that like that day, that minute? Maybe not. But as you were just saying, it's going to be perfect timing. Maybe it's 3 months later, 2 days later, whatever it might be.
I'll go back to some of my old notebooks. They're really hard to decipher and translate because of my chicken scratch when I'm on the run.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I did that, especially as I've been writing my book, because I'm like, oh my word, there was a reason that I wrote that down. Yes. It was something that my soul or my intuition really needed me to put down. And I remember I was coaching this person who was doing a pageant actually, and she just had a really full schedule. And I was trying to, I want to go talk about your morning practice, but I wanted to insert this before I forgot.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So we opened up a space for her to do her morning practice at like 5:00 in the morning. She had really young kids. It was for a Mrs. Pageant. She had really young kids and her husband had this long work schedule. Anyway, so it's like, I promise you, if you eke out this time, and it was only a half hour every morning, before your kids get up, the universe will reward that, because it's almost like, oh, she's listening, right? Yeah. And she told me that after about a week, she had to ask God, angels, whoever, stop. Like, it's too much, So she was getting...
They had a lot to tell.
Well, she was just getting so much like about her life. It wasn't necessarily even about the pageant, although she ended up winning the pageant. But it was mostly like, now that she was listening, because she was in just a busy mom mode. But again, I was like, it doesn't matter if you can integrate it or implement it right now, just write it down. Just get it down and you can revisit it. Turns out that she was able to solve 3 major life chronic, I guess you could say, blocks or issues that would have maybe prevented her from being able to take the path that she did by winning the pageant and doing her work and being a mom and all these things. It was something as a coach I could not give her. And I'm sure you've noticed that too. You may have a hit or an intuition on working with someone, but unless they've eked out that time, ideally in the morning, let's just say, to do their own capturing, their own receiving, they are not going to have, I don't know, it's just things that we can't fix or solve for them.
Yes, that's so true. I love that story. That's really very powerful. And what I was like hearing in that is that she gave herself that space that a lot of us don't do. I've been doing this morning practice myself literally for years and years. And I had this disruption in my life about a year ago. And I kind of fell off my own wagon of doing this. And I literally have been doing it forever.
Yeah.
And, at first I didn't really notice the difference. But then I did. It's like it's because it's so easy to get up and it's like start attending to your day, right? Like doing all the things that we need to do and all the things that people want us to do. And, all the things, work, family, all the commitments. And then you're just up and running and that's it. And so then once again, it's like you're letting your mind run your life, not you, like the totality of you. So that morning practice, I think it really gives us an opportunity to really like sit down with ourselves. And I call it the 3 C's. So one of them is the first one is called clearing. And I kind of modeled it after, or I was actually inspired by Julia Cameron, the artist within. And she's got a practice called the morning pages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which when I fell in love with that, years ago. And so this is basically a modified version of that, where you're just writing down, like what's in your head. Get it out of your head, because what you're literally doing energetically is opening up space so that we can be receptive. And this is something that, we override it in our day to day. Yeah. And so with the clearing, then, the next phase, or, the next C, if you will, is the connection piece. So whether that's a prayer, or maybe it's a song, or maybe you're doing some journaling, whatever it is that connects you to your spiritual self, like who you truly are, to your soul, we're actually giving the space for that communion to happen, if you will. And then with, once those pieces, the clearing, the connection, then we can actually get kind of linear, if you will, in the sense of, okay, what's most important for me today? What do I really need to accomplish, or what do I really want to do today? And so we can be intentional about what those things are and actually cue them up so that we're geared to go that day. That little formula is a miracle worker.
So is the 3rd C, what is that?
Yeah, so clearing, and then connecting, and then claiming. So like we're claiming our day.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I told you I have 3 C's too, but it's not about morning practice. It's just around creation. So the 3 C's of creation are clarity, commitment, courage. But I love what you're sharing, because yours is almost a precursor to even getting that clarity, because you don't really know what you're claiming or how to create what you're creating, really, until you've cleared the space for that. Yeah. Until you really know, like you can't even have clarity until you're doing the receptive work.
Totally. And what I love about this, kind of like this ritual, if you will, is that it does create that space. And just like that client you were sharing about, that, the universe does respond. Like she made that commitment to show up every day, every morning. And it's like, and then she started receiving, like, it was like drinking out of the water hose. It sounded like, because she got so much.
Yeah. And I've heard so many phrases around, variations on this theme of what the universe rewards. It rewards action. It rewards showing up consistently. Yeah. And that's kind of the, and I just keep going back to this like metaphor of the tortoise and the hare, just a little story I grew up with when I was, growing up, that my mom used to tell all the time, like slow and steady wins the race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And the tortoise is like the low, like the lopping steps of like, okay, I'm here, I'm going. And that actually, not only does he use up less energy and is able to, like you said, open up a space to receive more, but there's no burnout that ensues when you're really steady. But then the actual, like, I'm in this for the long haul. There's something around that. I think that is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I just show up and I just do my thing and I'm on my own pacing.
Yeah, I love how you said that. And what comes to me is it's like we're standing up for ourselves. Like we're committing to ourselves and the greater kind of expression of our lives by that simple practice of showing up every morning. It's like availing ourselves to and co-creating, with the universe. Like, what is it that wants to be expressed through me? Yeah.
Yeah. What is your process for asking? Because I know for me, this is kind of like one of the first steps of creating or even healing is being able to give like an ask. And everyone has their different way with it. I know there's prayer, I know there's meditation. I know, like, I actually heard once that our brains are wired for prayer, not in maybe a religious sense, but we're wired to ask. We're wired to inquire. So inquiry. And so do you have a practice that you use when what is your asking process?
Yeah, that's I don't have a one, like inquiry question, but yes, the inquiry. And it's kind of like what we were talking about before, how does it get better than this?
Yeah.
Or what do I need to know? Or how can I be of highest service? So whatever that context might be is applying those questions and then being willing to be there for the answer.
Yeah.
And I was just talking, I'm coming up with something. I was just talking to someone and I said, so when you ask the question, we have to be willing to hear the answer, like whatever that might be. And so sometimes it's like, that's why we don't ask because, oh my gosh, we kind of already know perhaps.
Right.
Or, wow, the answer is going to be something that's going to require more of me. And am I willing to show up and do that or be that?
Yeah. And as you're talking about that, I just had like kind of something come up where I think most of my upbringing and early years were around like, I'm going to get some kind of, like, if I ask, I'm going to get some kind of thought or answer in my head. So I'm going to have like, I'm going to know right away. But kind of going back to what you shared earlier, it's a whole body experience when you get a yes or a no, when you're being steered to turn right or left. Like it could be chill bumps. It could be, I've had times in my life where I was in a dangerous situation that I didn't really know that I was in. And I got like flashes, like my body just like my heart beat really fast 3 times, like flash, flash, flash. It felt like a heartbeat or a body beat. And sometimes it's usually more subtle. So when you're saying be there for the answer, sometimes that answer is a process, right? It's not an event.
Yes, I love that you brought that up because, sometimes it's not like we just get like this answer and then we're like, oh, okay, now I know I need, what I need to do. But rather, just as you're saying, like maybe you get chill bumps or your stomach just feels really like queasy or tight or whatever it might be. And that's something that I work with my clients on too, is about how to, how is it that you perceive your intuition? Like, how do you receive answers? And a lot of times, once again, when we're living neck up, we're just thinking, we're trying to think our way through things. We aren't paying attention to what our body is telling us because our body is responding. It knows before our intellectual mind knows. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And so some of us are more visceral. Some of us, maybe we have a dream. That's something that for me, I might get a dream and then I'm like, wow. And there's a message in that dream for me. Or, we feel it in our body. I teach an exercise called heavy or light. And so like, if you're trying to make a decision about something, how does it feel? Like, does it feel heavy? Then it may not be for you, or it may not be the right time. But if you're feeling light and it's almost like you're leaning into it, then it's like, okay, energetically, that's probably a match. And that's a very quick and easy way to discern on a day-to-day basis what is for us and maybe what we should step away from.
I love it. And all of these techniques, I think, bring you into just really fine tuning your own intuition.
Yeah.
So that you get it quicker. That it's not a drawn out process. I don't know. Have you ever studied human design? Just out of curiosity? Okay.
Yes.
Human design are you? Do you know?
I'm a generator.
Okay.
Yeah. And how about yourself?
Oh, sorry?
I said, and yourself? What are you?
Oh, so I'm a projector. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is just I want people to know we're all wired to receive intuition differently. I'm what's called like a splenic authority or a splenic projector. So in my case, I'll get it. I tend to know right away if it's a yes or a no for me. And that was so affirming. I remember from when I was a child, so I'm in between these two creative sisters. One's a year older and one's 2 years younger. And they're very artistic and very wear their heart on their sleeve. And I was sort of more the left brain, practical one. But I remember like we would be in a situation and I would know right away if we were safe. They couldn't. And then they would balance me out because there were certain aspects of things that I couldn't intuit that they were really, what I'm saying is we just come this way. So I just wanted to offer that to the audience. If you haven't had your human design done, you can get it done for free. I find it very revealing in terms of how we get clarity on things. So like my practice for that might be a little bit different than someone else's because I receive differently.
Yes. I love that you brought that up and exactly that, because we're all wired differently and starting to pay attention and also being affirmed. And human design is a great way to get that affirmation like, whoa, because that's exactly what happened to me too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was such a confirmation. Like that's how I get it, like how I know.
So if we're leading women to, let's just say, claim, well, first of all, get the clarity they need, right? And then just claim that dream. Like I meet a lot of women, and maybe you do too. And I'm sure it's true for men, but I mostly work with women. And I've seen this as kind of a phenomenon of the feminine where she thinks her window was closed for the longings of her heart to manifest. So there's that. Like her time has passed. She missed her window. There's that. But then also it's just like, is it okay? Because I think we're so relational that we're used to outsourcing our authority and saying, I need someone else to tell me if this is okay if I do it, rather than, like you said, lining up with your creator and sort of getting that divine yes or no or whatever. So what would you say to a woman who, number one, maybe she thinks she's past her time or it's too late. And then number two, like, how does she receive that and just move on it? Getting her own yes.
Yeah. So the too late, so maybe it is. However, what is the essence of that dream? Sometimes we get so locked into this is what what I always wanted, and this is where I thought I would go. And then that didn't transpire for all kinds of different reasons, right? But there's still an essence that is living within that woman that she wants to experience. And so it might be deconstructing the original, like, oh, it had to be this way, and looking at what is the core essence of that and how can she have that now? And one of the things I also teach is living some of that essence today. So it's like even a further dismantling of it, if you will. It's like, how could I experience more joy today? Or, whatever the bigger dream is, starting to look at those different elements of it and incorporating that, like literally from that minute forward, start living the dream now. Yeah. So ask me the second question, because the first one,
just moving on it, just going into it, just doing it.
Yeah. So one of the biggest, I think, drawbacks, I think for a lot of us too, especially if we have a really big dream and it's daunting. And that's one of the definitions for me. I think when we have a dream that is daunting and it's thrilling and it's meaningful and it's connected to our values, we're onto something. And we should really honor it and protect it and nurture it. And so really put energy around that dream. And one of my clients came up with this saying, and I'm like, I am straight out taking that because that's so good. And what he said was, when you have a dream, he said, the thing to say is, get the hell out of here. And what he meant was, yeah. Like,
because that puts you back in your head, right?
Yeah, because that's what we usually do. Like if we have something that we're like, okay, I really want to manifest this, then we get all, clinical and linear and the whole thing and map it all out. And there's value in doing that, but we overdo it.
Yeah.
And so kind of going back to your original question, I would say to all women, it's like trust and protect that dream. It truly is sacred. And if it is a soul goal, it is meant to be realized. So your way will be shown, and trust that. Yeah.
I think trust in this whole process is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's breached our trust in times past is that we're not seeing, like you said, the result didn't come in the way that we thought. And then we go into sort of like this soul sickness piece where we're like, oh, I wanted this and I got this. And God or the universe isn't showing up for me because I didn't get this. But the trust piece becomes really, really pivotal. And it hasn't been easy for me. I don't know about you, but it's just been a difficult, let's say maybe even a life theme for me is to trust that all is unfolding as it is the highest for me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is really challenging. And I've definitely experienced that too. And, because we think it should look a certain way, right? And we're being all intentional and law of attraction and all that good stuff. And then it's like, it didn't come,
Yeah.
And what is the essence of it, though, like that we can take? And also, when I create intentions, it's like this or something even better, because sometimes our rational mind is making that intention versus what is the co-creation with the universe actually want and what is in our highest and best.
That feels a lot more expansive. This or something better, this or something higher. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I know this is part of law of attraction stuff too. And I have mixed feelings about what's been taught about the law of attraction. But one thing I really appreciate is, it's the feeling and intent, like deep intent that behind the ask, like, the stronger the pure raw feelings, not perfect. I call them raw. How raw and vulnerable you can be in your ask is so powerful. I think it ignites, activates, the next right step for you or something more powerful to come into your path. Has that been your experience as well?
Oh, I love how you articulate some of these ideas. So good. Yeah. It's almost like that purity of it's an energetic. And I think it's a catalyst, like it's almost like we're surrendered, it's like, this is what my desire is. And there's like this purity in the asking and also in the surrendering of it, this or something better. And I think it creates a catalytic kind of like energy for what is meant to come to be activated. Yeah.
And once again, just trusting that is all divine timing. I've certainly had, as I started to deconstruct things and kind of come into like, what is my truth? What is my clarity? What resonates with me? And all that. What a deconstruction process. I mean, because a lot of those things were co-opted for me and I thought they were true for, that was my truth. But turns out that I had dissonance with it all along. I just wasn't paying attention. So when we talk about giving yourself permission to dream, giving yourself permission to feel and that your feelings are validated, to me, that is the frequency boost, if you will, the energetic frequency boost of just allowing giving yourself permission. How, I know as a coach, you probably see this a lot, that do you feel like that's a place where people get really tripped up? They're just sometimes that's why they have a coach, is for someone to give them permission to, manifest something that they really, really have a strong desire to manifest.
Oh my gosh, yes. Because and there's a lot underneath that, and for each individual, right? So it might be that they're more oriented towards what their family wants, or a particular person, or even a group that they're part of, and so that can actually get in the way of the true desire that person has, right? Mm-hmm. And so learning how to really trust that what is best for me, if it's a soul goal, it's going to have what I call a ripple effect. So your dream has an effect on others. And, what comes to me is one of my dreams, and it's kind of a long story, but the nuts and bolts of it is that I grew up in the Midwest, and I moved to San Diego about 5 years ago with my husband. And it was a dream come true. And at the time that the dream originated within me, it did not even seem possible at all, for all kinds of reasons. And I could have let that dream, and in fact, in the beginning, I'm kind of like, okay, that's crazy. This is never going to happen, and dismissed it. And I did that for a while. But when it's a soul goal, it doesn't go away. It's living within you. And fast forward, it did. It evolved. There were synchronicities, things happened, divine timing, all kinds of things. And what happened when that dream got realized is it had this effect on lots of people in my world that I had no idea that it would. But it was positive for me. It was positive for my husband, but it was also positive for both of our kids. It was positive for my clients who saw this journey. So it's like such a ripple effect. So I think that knowing that what is true for us it's not even just for us.
It's not about us. Usually,
right?
Even.
It's bigger than that.
Especially if one of your asks is to help alleviate suffering on the planet. If one of your asks is show me my purpose, it's not really related directly to you. It's what you came as a vessel to be. Have impact with others.
Yes, I just got goosebumps on that.
Me too, actually. Right when you said it, I'm like, ooh, that was a yes too.
Yes, that was a yes.
Thanks, body, for yesing us. So I want to ask you one more question as we kind of wrap up. Yeah. And it's something I ask a lot of my guests because it's a word that has a lot of charge for us, and it's success. It's something that you teach and that you're about.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a word that it's had a very masculine driven paradigm, and it meant something different, I think, than it's starting to mean now for a lot of people who are coming into the soul goal piece of it.
Yes.
But what do you feel like first of all, let's define success, what you feel like success is. And I know you have a secret for true, quote unquote, true success.
Yeah. So true success is, it really is all of what we've been talking about today. It's like really tapping into what is the truth, what is authentic for me, and living from that place, and not comparing it to other people's definitions. I think that in our society, and depending on what country you live in, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of commonality around what success is, and that typically is prestige, it's power, it's money, it's having a certain elevation in your career or a certain title. All of those kinds of things are deemed success, right? And lots of people pursue those things, and then they feel hollow when they have them because it really isn't true for them, right?
It's not really one of their true core values.
Exactly. Exactly. So someone could be so successful, and let's say they don't have a lot of money, or they don't have a high-powered job, or any kind of labeling like that, but they're a homemaker and they're raising their kids, and there's a lot of love in the home. And
I know people like that. I wish
I do too.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. I wish I was more of a homemaker, but I used to think that was my ideal, that I needed to be.
Ah.
And it wasn't true success for me, even though I have a lot of kids. And yeah, homemaking was my destiny, or so I thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting point, though, because it's so individualistic.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that perfect kind of like, putting the puzzle pieces together? Who am I at my best, at my highest? And what does that look like? And that may shift, through our different cycles of our life too, Yeah.
Yeah. So it really is sacred to each one of us how we define that. I used to think there was like an actual template, like an ideal human to model your success goals and what have you after. I think now it's more internally driven, and I love that you talk about, just like it has to really hit your soul. It has to be something that moves you on all levels. And usually those external things like money and resources and stuff, those are just ancillary to what's actually driving you.
That's so true.
And so beautiful. So Deanna, how do people find you? And tell us a little bit about what you offer.
Oh, thank you. So my website is Deanna Long, and it's spelled just like Diana. So that's why it's a little bit of a tricky name, but it's DIANALONG.com. So I'm easy to find. And I'm also on some of the social media. So you can find me out there. And, I love to connect with individuals that are just really, everything that we've been talking about today, and just really wanting to elevate their life, to that next level. And they may not know exactly what that is. A lot of times people come to coaching because they feel stuck, or they're a little bored, or things just don't feel quite right. Or maybe there has been some kind of a incident, or an event in their life that has really created this need to like redefine and create a new path. So I'm very open to working with, I work with a lot of women, but I also work with men too. And just am so blessed truly to be in this profession, and being able to support people and empower people and inspire people to really live their best and truest life.
Wonderful. I think a lot of people are, therapy has its place, working, with somebody who has those capacities and those credentials. But I also really, really feel like coaching is kind of the next level to getting into the soul piece of it that we've been referencing, and just finding when you find a fit with someone who can actually hold space and guide you to your vision and your dreams. Yeah. Like that's really, really beautiful. It's a beautiful path. I agree. It's very fulfilling to be working with people on the level of the soul and witnessing their transitions and transformations. So
yes. Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Deanna. And hopefully we can reconnect on future projects. And again, thank you, Leah Young, for connecting us.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Sherry. It was great. Thank you so, so much. Loved our conversation.
I guess the take-home message of this episode is to just dream, to give yourself permission to dream big and go for it, even if it seems impossible from where you are now. And I know that is such a trite expression, but getting more rapid traction from letting your heart lead, putting your left brain in its proper place, not overthinking. And this is what we mean by embodiment, is letting your soul lead. And that happens by getting in and really honoring, what are these desires that live inside of me? Nurturing them, hearing them, validating them, protecting them. And then it's a natural process for them to emerge, especially when we show up regularly. A dedicated morning practice, such as what Deanna talked about. So I hope you have a glorious couple of weeks, and we're going to dive into something super juicy on our next episode. I've got a guest that's been on before coming back. She and I spent time together in Scotland, and we're going to talk a little bit about some mystical yet powerful ways that we can keep that soul connection. So we'll talk to you next time on Stand, Speak, Shine.